Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new video. Z Street 3 here. College football. Playoffs are here, bowl games are here. I'm actually doing this a couple days late. I believe the games were last week, last Wednesday. What the dates of the games? Let me go look quick. Yeah, the first one was December 20th, and it's now January 8th. And the last game that was played was January 1st, so I am quite a bit late to this, so I do apologize. I had some travels I had to take care of, but I'm now back. And so originally I decided was only going to do the college football playoff, but I decided why not cover some other bowl games while we're at it. So let's get into it quick. In the FCS, Jackson State, not FCS. This is the SWAC. So the HBCUs. Jackson State, after the departure of Deion Sanders, still performing very well. South Alabama, Western Michigan. Western Michigan was 6-6. So was South Alabama. Two very small school teams. Don't really care. South Alabama won 30-23. Memphis ranked in top 25 at 11-2. Great year for them. Played West Virginia and they won 42-37. So tremendous year for Memphis and a great way to end it. California and UNLV. UNLV had another great year. They beat California 24-13. No shock there. California's buns. Western Kentucky and James Madison. James Madison had another great year. The first year without their head coach, who went to Indiana. They won their bowl game and they finished 9-4 in the season. They beat Western Kentucky by 10. Georgia Southern and Sam Houston. Sam Houston surprisingly 10-3. So a pretty good year there for them. They win 31-26. We're going to ignore that bowl game real quick because we're going to cover that later. Ohio 11-3 and Jackson State. Ohio had a great year. 11-3. They win by 3 points against Jackson State. Tulane and Florida. Florida had a disappointing year. DJ Lagway, however, is a freshman running back and looks very sensational. And tough SEC, they still could be a pretty good team, but again, the SEC is just so tough, you never know. But they beat Tulane handily, 33-8. Tulane coming off last year, I think last year they only lost 2 games. One of the best non-Power 5 teams, but they had a tough year at 9-5. Their conference got a lot more competitive, and they have not played well this year, so to speak, and they get thrashed by Florida, who is a bottom tier, and all intents and purposes, kind of a bottom record-wise, a bottom tier SEC team, but they still blew them out of the water, which just goes to show the gap between SEC teams and the smaller conferences. Another football playoff games that we'll ignore. FCS championship, South Dakota State. North Dakota State, two rivals. North Dakota State has gotten the better of them as of late, but North Dakota State wins 28-20, 28-21. The Montana State was the last remaining unbeaten team in the nation besides Oregon. They also won 31-17. Let's keep going. Oops. Let's see where we at. Oh, UTSA thrashed Coastal Carolina. They were really good for a while, and they have really fallen off the beat. Really off the beat. They're still getting bowl games. It was a home game actually, but UTSA with a tremendous win. They also had a very disappointing year when they thought they might win their conference. Again, it got a lot more competitive, but they still won their bowl games. That's nice. Northern Illinois, the team that beat Notre Dame, only team to beat Notre Dame. In fact, finishes the year on an impressive 8-5 and a bowl win. In double overtime, mind you. South Florida and San Jose State both don't really care. Feeder teams. Pittsburgh, who for a while was ranked and then had a horrible end to their season. In 6 overtime, they lose to Toledo, so a really bad end to their season. From being ranked to now only 7-6 and no bowl game victory. Tough, tough, tough for Pittsburgh. Kansas State, also a somewhat disappointing year because they didn't win the Big 12 when they could have. really competitive league, honestly. Um, a really competitive division, conference, whatever you want to call it. Not league. They only beat Rutgers by 4 points. Apparently, someone sets the K-State rushing record, which is impressive. They've had a lot of good running backs over the years. But they finished the season with the bowl wins. That's that. Arkansas State, who normally is one of the worst teams in the entire nation, wins a bowl game, 38-21. So kudos to them. Syracuse, 10-3. A great team, just couldn't get it done against the bigger teams. They beat Washington State 52-38 and finished on a good year of 10-3 after being bad for a long time with the transfer from Iowa State, Kyle McCord. Oklahoma and Navy. Oklahoma loses and finishes the season under 500 against Navy. Navy fourth quarter 2-point conversion stop, and they win by 1 point. Great year for Navy, 10-3, beat Army, bowl game victory. Doesn't happen very often anymore for the Navy and Army, but they did it. Georgia Tech and Vandy. Now Georgia Tech was a team that almost and should have beat Georgia, and honestly, they're one of the better teams that's well at 7-6. Still a dangerous team, but Vanderbilt actually wins this game 35-27. Vandy, of all teams, normally does not win a single conference game, is a bowl game champion. They beat Alabama this year. What a great year for them. A lot of controversy as well regarding Diego Pavia because they just announced a new rule where JUCO players still get 4 years of eligibility. So they get 6 years as opposed to 4. So it's a lot of people are not happy about it. Arkansas beats Texas Tech. Um, I don't even know if it's a disappointing year because they actually won the bowl game for once, but they beat Texas Tech. Have a good quarterback. You never know. Again, SEC is so competitive that they won't probably be very good. But hey, Texas A&M again. After all that money and brand new coach, they still finished 8-5, and they still don't win a bowl game. I think they have the most 8-5 finishes in the last decade of any team ever. It's incredible how often they finish 8-5. But they were at one point in the top 10 in the nation, and now they're unranked at 8-5, and they lost to USC, who had a really bad year, and they still lost. I see they were up quite a bit, and the USC 21 points in the fourth quarter. Another blowout. I mean, A&M. The ability A&M does to just blow leads and blow their seasons is unlike I've ever seen in my entire life. But, haha. Iowa State and Miami. Miami, the team people thought should have stayed in the playoffs. However, they did lose to Syracuse in the final game of the year and thus didn't make the conference championship. They lose their bowl game to Iowa State. Late lead. Iowa State wins by 1 point in the final seconds of the game. Now, mind you, as we look at the first quarter, Miami was up. Cam Ward broke the record for passing touchdowns, I think, the most ever in the history of the sport, and he sits the remainder of the game. So the entire second half he sits, and Miami only scores 10 points, and they lose by 1. That to me is disgusting. And if I'm an NFL executive, I'm looking at that, and I see that, well, one is like, oh, well, we don't get hurt, he jeopardizes his career. But at the same time, he's quitting on his team and his teammates and his coaches. That is disgusting to me. Is one of the main components of what's wrong with college football today. And if I'm an NFL executive, I'm not drafting this dude because of that. I think it was scummy. I think he's a POS. And he's not deserved to play in the NFL. Just off that. I think he can go enjoy the Canadian League or something like that. I don't know. BYU thrashes Colorado in their final game. A disappointing end to BYU. Sorry, disappointing end for Colorado. Still finished 9-4 after being bad for forever. A lot of controversy about they're overhyped and uh, gosh, what was his name? Travis Hunter should have won the Heisman. Should have won the Heisman. Sanders is the top quarterback pick. Deion Sanders is a great coach. But he's not a great coach. People hate him. People love him. But hey, still a great year. Disappointing end. I do think they are a bit overrated. A lot of people were saying that if they would have made the playoffs, they would have could be anyone. I don't think they're a very good team. They got some good stars, but overall as a team, they're not good, and that's the issue. You got to have a good all-around team, and they do not have that for sure. They have some really good skill players, but that's about it. But they finished the season. Probably will not finish the season ranked after this loss. But BYU had a great season, 11-2. Just barely missed the playoffs. Had some I think in December they lost 2 games in a row, like back-to-back games when they were undefeated in the top 5 or something. But still a great year of BYU. Coming into the Big 12, people thought they were going to suck and be on the bottom, and they almost won the whole thing. I think they're going to be good for a long time. They got a good coach, and sky's the limit for BYU. Louisiana Tech and Army. Army gets a bowl win at 12-2, which is a great record for Army again. Army and Navy normally do not have good records, but they win 27-6 against Louisiana Tech. UConn upsets North Carolina 27-14. UConn, first bowl win since 2010, almost lost their football program. Actually, I think this might be. I'm not too sure if they're going to even have a football program or not, but they won the bowl game. They finished 9-4, so pretty crazy. A team that might not even exist. Nebraska, disappointing season at 7-6, but they have a great freshman quarterback. They win their bowl game against Boston College 20-15, and hopefully they'll improve as their quarterback Dylan Raiola gets experience. Louisiana and TCU. TCU 9-4, disappointing season I suppose. 34-3, not even close. Miami and Colorado State. Colorado State another disappointing year. They lost. They got their butt whooped 43-17. East Carolina and NC State. East Carolina wins 26-21. Missouri, somewhat disappointing year. They still finished in 3, but again, they just could not beat the big time teams in the SEC. Again, Missouri is a team that probably could have won the Big 12 or could have won the ACC or could have won different conferences, but because they're in the SEC, it's just impossible for them. But they win. They beat Iowa by 3 points, so kudos to them. More bowl games. Let's see. Alabama, the team that everyone said should have been in the playoffs. A lot of people said they shouldn't have been. They get beat by Michigan, who was not really that good of a team yet. They get beat. Jalen Monroe has a horrible game. Again, I'm telling you, he was holding them back the whole year. He was their main component and their main problem the whole year was him. But Alabama loses in quite embarrassing fashion. It's kind of funny that all the haters won the day because now this proves Alabama did not deserve to be in the playoffs. And the playoff committee got it right. South Carolina, another team that people thought should have been in the playoffs, also loses. So 2 SEC teams lose. They have not done good in bowl games. They lose to Illinois, who had a great year at 10-3, 21-17. Louisville beats Washington 35-34. Washington had a very disappointing year. LSU beats Baylor 44-31. LSU had a disappointing end. Again, they also got in the top 10 and then kind of fell apart at the end there. Duke and Ole Miss. Ole Miss blows out Duke. No shock there. Malik Henry did not play, their star quarterback. He's transferring again, which is kind of scummy in my opinion. Ole Miss blows them out 52-20. This is a team that should have been in the playoffs. If any SEC team, like obviously now that we know the bowl games, Ole Miss over South Carolina and over Alabama, they could have done some damage, but should have just won in the regular season, dude. That's all there is to it. Texas State beats North Texas 30-28. Minnesota beats Virginia Tech 24-10. Buffalo beats Liberty. Liberty had a very disappointing year, I suppose. What they were expecting. 26-27, got blown out. North Dakota State, the last unbeaten team at this time of this game was Montana State. Oregon loses. We'll get into that later. But North Dakota State, after not winning, I think, for the past 3 or 4 years, finally gets that championship back, and they beat Montana State 35-32, 3 points. It was a crazy game. Look at that second half, 15 points in that fourth quarter. Third quarter, almost came back. North Dakota State holds on, and the last unbeaten is down. There was no unbeaten in football this year. So let's go up to the college football playoffs. First game, Indiana and Notre Dame. A lot of people are saying that Indiana shouldn't get in. Their only 2 losses. Only loss was to Ohio State when they got thrashed, and they played Notre Dame. This game is a lot not as close as it seems. Notre Dame won by 10. As you can see, most of their points came in that fourth quarter. It was 3-27. Like this game was a thrashing. Like I firmly do believe that Indiana, on paper, look, here's the thing: they still won. All these teams are complaining about not getting the playoffs and thinking that they should have gone in over Indiana. Just win. Just don't lose. Like Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. Like, grow up and take responsibility for your losses. Otherwise, you would have been in probably. And that's just on you. But again, Indiana's not that great of a team. I think they had a really weak schedule. They played every game they played besides Ohio State was the bottom half of the Big Ten. Still a decent team, just definitely not college football playoff good. Clemson and Texas. This was also another one game that's a bit more close than it looks, 38-24. As you can see at the half, Texas was dominating, and they kind of let Clemson kind of crawl back a bit here in the second half. Kay Klubnik probably had the best game of his entire career here, to be frank. But Texas at home wins 38-24. Clemson had a pretty good year, squeezed right into the playoffs. SMU and Penn State. This game was another blowout. SMU, this guy Jennings had probably one of his worst games of his career, and the worst time possible. And Penn State blows them out. Another team that people think should not have been in the playoffs, and I kind of do agree with that sentiment. But hey, again, to the teams that didn't get in, just win your games, and you'll get in. Simple as that. Penn State looking very scary, might I add. Tennessee, this game was insane. So again, these first round games are at home. So Tennessee actually had a lot of fans there. I think like 30,000 fans were there at Ohio State. Like that doesn't happen at Ohio State, but they came in force. Like there was a lot of orange out there. So it was almost like a neutral site game. And Ohio State rips them a new one, 42-17. I thought I knew Ohio State was going to win, but didn't think it was going to be this bad of an ass whooping. Absolute ass whooping. 21-0 in the first quarter. It's really embarrassing for the SEC. I mean, they've had a very rough go of it in the bowl games. Besides Texas, as we'll see later, Texas is the last SEC team standing that was in the Big 12 last year. But Tennessee, disappointing season. They always do that. Like they always build up, and look good, and then they always blow it. And this was a most embarrassing fashion. Um, let's keep going on. Penn State and Boise State. This game again, another one of those games that not really close. Now, keep in mind, Boise State played Oregon and lost to them by only 3. That was the early season Oregon. Oregon, in the beginning of the season, really struggled, but then came together and beat Ohio State in the other season. Boise State, another one of those teams that maybe should not have made the playoffs. But again, like I said, just win your games and you got in over them. They get pretty much thrashed by Penn State. Penn State has had a really, really easy schedule here. Been awarded for losing their conference championship. It's kind of insane. Texas and Arizona State. This game was not close in the beginning. Like you see, Texas was up 17-3. It was, I mean, absolutely beating the crap out of them, and then they let them come back in that fourth quarter. And in second overtime, there was a quote unquote targeting call that they missed for Texas. Taft, although he didn't leave his helmet, was not targeting, just football, good football play, whatever. Going to overtime, Texas is facing a 4th and 13 in the overtime game. If they don't convert on touchdown, it's game over, and they get a touchdown, and then they get the ball. And they get the ball. First possession of overtime, they score on the very first play. They go to helm, and then Arizona State's coming down, and they get picked off. Game over. But a beautiful game. Texas almost blew it. Brent Auburn, horrible kicker, missed the game-winning kick, and before overtime, the 2 overtimes. But Texas moves on. Oregon plays Ohio State plays Oregon. Not only do they get their revenge, they get in a blowout. It was 34-8 at half. This game was not close. Absolute shock. Ohio State rips them a new one. Ohio State is extremely dangerous. The best team left in the playoffs. Jeremiah Smith, 161 yards, 2 touchdowns in the first half. Just unbelievable thrashing. Notre Dame and Georgia. Notre Dame honestly won this game handily. Like Georgia had no answer for them. They couldn't do anything on offense. Notre Dame defense played tremendous. They had a punt return. Notre Dame was looking pretty scary. Like they had the real team. Like honestly, that loss in Illinois, I think woke them up, and they are a bona fide threat. So now this is what we got: the college football playoffs. The Final Four is what we used to call it back in the day when it first got introduced. It's Notre Dame and Penn State at 7-6, and Ohio State at 8, and Texas at 5. Every conference champion is now out of the playoffs. Let's see if we can go to the actual bracket. Yeah, here's the bracket. Conference champion, Oregon, boom, out. Arizona State conference champion, boom, out. Boise State conference champion, boom, out. Georgia conference champion, boom, out. So a lot of people were saying that Oregon was number one, finished the season undefeated. Look at the late hand because look at they're playing. They're playing Tennessee and Ohio State, or Texas here, or Arizona State. Meanwhile, Penn State that they beat gets these easy games against SMU and Boise State and then Indiana. Like this is the easy route, far and away, easier route. But I don't think. I think, in my opinion, this is the championship, right? Whoever wins this game is going to win the championship. That's my opinion. But Oregon fans are like, oh, boo-hoo, we got the bye, but we had to play all these good teams. Okay, well, you can still win the game. It's not my fault you got blown out. Maybe you play better. But what a great year. I think the 12-team playoff is pretty cool. I think it should have been 8, maybe not 12. Um, but that's just me. But I think they did a good job, the committee. I really think they do. Again, just win your games and you'll get in. It's not that simple. Or it is that simple. Really exciting. This is one of the best college football years we've had in a while. A lot of upsets, a lot of teams. Like, imagine at the end of the year, I told you that SMU, Indiana, Notre Dame, Arizona State, Clemson would be in the playoffs, and that all the conference champions would have lost in the playoffs. It's just insane. One of the best years ever, and can't wait to see what happens. I'm a big Texas fan, so I'm hoping they win. That's it so far. I will not post another video until the championship is decided. I will cover these 3 games here. Without further ado, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content. Got a surprise coming for the YouTube a bit. It's going to be a video game. It's going to be awesome. Stay tuned for that, either tonight or tomorrow. But without further ado, again, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more content. This is 3 signing out. As always, stay frosty.